All right, and I'm not going to hard mute attendees, so I'm going to have it so that y'all can come off of mute. But if you don't mind staying on mute if you're not presenting, that would be great. And we'll just do gentle reminders if anybody forgets and accidentally comes off of mute. So let's go ahead and get started. So the world we live in is fundamentally different than the world that we were working in a year ago. And it's definitely going to look different a year from now. The global pandemic has forced us to reconsider what's possible, what's acceptable, and what our new normal will be. And together, all of us, we have an opportunity and a responsibility to shape that world to be more sustainable, more equitable, and more inclusive than what came before. At Microsoft, our mission is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. And today we're joined by a broad array of public sector organizations. And together, our mission is to expand all of that to include state agencies, schools, counties, cities. And if you're representing an organization that is not in that list, I apologize. But we all have a real opportunity as we move forward in this hybrid work world to do things differently and to be really on purpose. And we're going to share some great information today to help with that. So first, I really want to thank you all for attending. And it's an investment of time, and we appreciate it. I'd like to spend a special thank you to the DIR and the Technology Today series. Also, the SAC Training and Development Committee, they are co-sponsoring this event with the DIR. And I also want to put a special thank you out to Joy Hall Bryant for over 25 years of service to the DIR in the state of Texas. She is retiring at the end of the month, if you have not heard, which we are all very sad to see, but very happy for Joy. So Joy, thank you for all your support, your friendship over the years, and the amazing job that you have done creating so many opportunities for so many of us to learn by hosting and organizing events like this. So yeah, I saw the thank yous and the applause. So thank you so much, Joy.
Thank you, Michael. We've done so many things over the years. It's kind of, I think, fate that this is my last event I'm helping host, and then task. So kind of closing out the era with that.
Absolutely. And I was looking at your LinkedIn profile yesterday, and I actually noticed that you used to work at Accenture. It was a couple of years ago, but I didn't know that about you.
A long time ago. Herschel and I were at Accenture together.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of Accenture, today I am joined, and I could not be more pleased, by two distinguished leaders who have worked in public sector for more years than I think it would actually be polite to talk about. So first, let me introduce Yesenia Reyes. She is an executive leader in Accenture's health and public sector practice. As a consultant to an organizational change management practitioner, she's focused on public sector, and she shapes and delivers transformational change programs, drawing on a deep experience with talent and workforce transformation, complex enterprise financial transformation, customer-centric design and innovation. She's worked in public sector clients in Texas, New York, California, and Florida. In addition to the client work, she's also a leader internally with corporate programs focused on inclusion and diversity, which will be a big part of what we're talking about today. And she serves as the executive program sponsor for Accenture's North American Hispanic American Employee Resource Group. And she works with individuals as a career coach and mentor. So she is absolutely in it to win it for helping people. And then in her community, she supports local nonprofits and focuses on food security, children, and family services. And she's honored to serve on the board of advisors of Florida State University Center for Hispanic Marketing Communication. And she came to Accenture from a career, in nonprofit organizational management and leadership. And for 12 years, she led family assistance education programs in nonprofit organizations in Dallas. She has an academic degree in medical anthropology, which is really interesting, from Southern Methodist University in Dallas. And she studied community health programs at the University of Texas School of Public Health in Houston, Texas. So thank you, Yesenia, for joining us, and welcome. We also have Heather Whitlock, who is head of industry public sector at Adobe. And as the head of industry, Heather works with public sector customers to enable engaging digital document experiences for employees and citizens. We have all used Adobe products pretty much our whole professional careers. And she spent her career helping people and organizations define their vision and design strategic objectives and implement solutions to achieve meaningful outcomes. Prior to joining Adobe, Heather spent 20 years as a senior executive in management technology, operations, and consulting, leading complex business transformation. She's worked in human capital, systems integration, and application service programs across global teams. And she is a passionate people ambassador with a desire to solve problems, strengthen communities, and help public sector serve the mission. So, Heather, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Great to be here. And thanks to everybody who helped put together such a great event today and all the sponsors. Really excited to talk and collaborate with everyone today. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah. My name is Michael Kennedy, and I am in charge of modern work strategy and success for the state of Texas for Microsoft. It's been my pleasure over the last year to work with almost all of the state agencies here in Texas, as well as the city of Austin, to help them make this transformation to a more modern way of working. We were sort of forced into that and did things we previously would not have thought possible in a very short amount of time, as 145,000 state employees went home back in April and March of last year. So let me share with you the agenda that we have. We are right on schedule with welcome and introductions. Then we're going to hear from Yesenia on perspectives on the future of work and what Accenture is seeing. We're going to do a short break. And so depending on where we are with time, we will plan to break right about 9:30 and come back at 9:40. Then I'm going to dig into enabling the future of work and really talking about what we are seeing at Microsoft and through our customers and through the technologies that we have. And then that's going to be followed by Heather talking about transforming the future of work and what Adobe has been seeing. Both Accenture and Adobe are very strong partners of Microsoft, and we've been working together for literally decades, and with an ever increasing amount of collaboration and co-work as we really help the world transform. And so I'm excited to have both of them because we already get to work together so often. And then the last thing that we're going to do is we are going to do a panel discussion. And what we wanted to do is really get quickly through the content. And seems like someone is typing and isn't on mute. So if you don't mind going on mute, then we're going to have a panel discussion. So we wanted to quickly get through quite a bit of content and have shorter sessions so that we could have a really open discussion at the end. And so please be thinking about questions that you want to ask. If you could hold them till that panel discussion time, that would be great. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing and go ahead and have Yesenia start sharing her screen. And was I sharing or was I not sharing?
Yes, you are. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, great. So Yesenia, you please go right ahead.
It is
here we go.
Almost there.
Okay, and I will stop.
All right. Can everyone see the screen? Perfect. Well, thank you once more to Michael, to the state of Texas, and all of the organizational leaders that have joined this morning to talk about, right, what is hybrid work and, what are all of the different considerations that we have to make as workforce leaders, as with our partners across the enterprise, not only in HR, going into how we manage talent and how technology enables this, right? There is, I'm sorry, I'm getting a message that the presentation isn't displaying. Will someone confirm?
Yeah, Yesenia, I am not seeing it either. So maybe if you could just start the sharing again.
All right.
But we can't see your video. Here it comes.
Perfect.
Let's give
Are
it
we
one
there?
more second to fully load. There we go. Now we see it.
All right, perfect. This is the new reality of working in remote and virtual settings, and so I thank you for the patience and flexibility that you extend as we go through our time together, because I'm sure there will be something else that happens. So you are in the midst of that transformation, right? Into what it means to be working differently. And as a citizen of Texas, as a proud Texan, first I want to say thank you for all of the work that you've done to really turn citizen services around on a dime and meet the needs of our most vulnerable during a time that has put us all in a real headspin about how to move quickly, how to move intentionally, and how to move with purpose. And so today's conversation is, what are the challenges and what do we consider as we start to think about this journey to a new normal? And there are so many different ways that I'm hearing this being discussed in not only in the terms of how organizations adopt and adapt, but also in just now how employees and the workforce and citizens are looking to how they meet their needs. And so there's just a growing momentum of movement to be very strategic and to be very digitally enabled. And so that's where this partnership with organizations like Microsoft, Adobe, and others is really helpful, because we can quickly start to put together the vision of what that new normal can look like. And so today you're likely finding yourself asking the questions of what is your return to office, right? What is your future of work plan, right? What does it mean to come back into physical space? What does it mean for your workforce, and what does it mean for your citizens, for the citizens that you serve? There's also an element of understanding now needs and preferences, again, both to that internal audience and the external audience. We all I think, if we got a series of head nods or hand claps, we all like the ability to reach for our phone to meet immediate needs, right? If I've run out of, milk, right, going onto my Prime account is now the new way that I shop first, right? Very different from the way that I did so a year ago. So we now need to be very cognizant and data driven in terms of understanding where we're going with people's needs and preferences, so that we can have the best possible experience with the service that we provide. We're also thinking about how do we embrace the change and, while still preserving that organizational culture, right? Your organizations have been around for a long time. You have got a strong sense of culture that says, right, what we do is mission critical to the lives of our citizens. And so how do you continue to make these incremental changes and still maintain that sense of collaboration, the sense of the fighting spirit of service that our state workforce has? You're also looking to think about long-term planning, right? What does it mean to deliver on the promise to citizens, now, in the next couple of months, while we're still dealing with the effects of the new variants, right, of COVID cases coming back up, and long term, right, because there's a trajectory of services here. You're also likely thinking about how you are, from an HR perspective, serving the needs of your workforce through enhanced or evolved programs and policies. This is something that, while we're all trying to be effective immediately, can someone confirm that the presentation is not showing again?
I can still sing it.
I can see
Okay,
it.
perfect. I see a note, but I just want to make sure that it's not for everyone. Okay. That we're so the opportunity to continue to evolve, how we institutionalize, the changing needs that HR programs and policy support is something that we're all rethinking. And then, how do we manage the change, right, throughout each step of this evolution, right? This is going to be a journey. It is going to be one where we have changes that are that we need to implement quickly, and so we need to understand the impact to our stakeholders. And we also need to know that those changes that we're making are being effective, right? How do we monitor and track that we are making, significant progress and that we're meeting the needs, the goals and objectives that we are chartered to make. And so you can think about, right, again, if you just in your day-to-day work, what part of these questions, that might be all of them, it might be some of them that you are collaborating with your leadership teams to shape and chart a path forward. Likely you're talking as an executive team, right? Again, your HR and your business operations are hopefully working together to figure this out. You know that there's an element of real estate planning and finance that that all has to be working together to support this journey to the future. And of course, right, I think if there is a blessing in all of this, it's that technology is at the ready to support, the evolving and growing needs of our services. And so I think it's an exciting time where we can reach for technology to really be an enabler in this strategic change. And, against this framework of everything that we're considering, there's still, the vitality of our organizations depends on our focus on our people, right? So we've got, incredible health changes, incredible economic changes. None of us can deny the fact that, we're seeing, the social fabric of our communities, kind of come into focus and tackle really challenging questions. And so among this, those CHRO professionals, right, our human resource professionals, whether it's the chief executive or kind of the community of colleagues around our human resources practices, this is one of the most vital roles in charting the path to this new normal, because it's really about how do we keep our workforce, our people, safe, right, employed, supported, and feeling a sense of equality, right, equity. And there are, we've done studies, right? There is no shortage of literature out there about about this topic, and we are seeing, and it's rightful to see this, that some people feel better equipped than others to really be at the moment, thinking about this crisis and moving forward as we hopefully are navigating our way out of it. So Accenture has done its fair share of research. We, in our Care to Do Better research that surveyed over 3,200 senior executives, 50% of which were human resource executives, and 50% of those executives served in other capacities, in the technology and other parts of the business, with over 15,000 employees surveyed as well across 15 industries and 10 countries. So this was, a really robust, research piece that we did. And what we found is that, in light of the changes that our business, our citizen services, right, our organizations have to meet evolving service needs, we still need to focus on those people, the workforce, that are meeting those citizen, customer, right, external needs. And so our Care to Do Better research found that there are 6 fundamental human needs that through the workplace, through work, organizations can really, tap into and leverage and unlock the workforce's full potential. And we call this model the Net Better Off model. And why are we focused on, in the face of having to evolve services and, shift the way that we meet in offices or not offices, right? All of that. Why do we come back to the people side of things? And it's because our workforce needs to be nurtured, right? It needs to be grown. It needs to feel like, they've got an opportunity ahead of them so that they, kind of stay plugged into the mission of the organization, so that they continue to choose public sector as a career of choice, and they continue to feel like, they are themselves being taken care of as they are meeting the needs of, the citizens, right, that they serve. So it really is about taking care of our workforce so that they can take care of our citizens. And so this framework is anchored in 6 human needs, and we are calling them relational, right? How do we demonstrate a sense of belonging when we are working virtually? The next need is physical. What do employees need in their physical well-being when we are working, and what should we continue to do? The next dimension is purposeful. How does our purpose evolve to meet, the changing needs of our citizens and our workforce? How do we continue to be employable? What skills and adjacent skills does our workforce need to continue to grow and advance in their career? Of course, we have to consider the financial. What are the new needs? What are the new sets of benefits that our workforce needs and desires to, again, stay focused on mission critical work and feel like they are themselves doing well? And the last of those needs is emotional and mental. How can we support mental wellness and resilience? Again, I think, as you take a look at your experience over the past year and a half, right? I hope that you can find that these are questions that you have been asking yourself, and that you as a leader in your organization hear, right? The conversation from your work, you hear the dialogue around all of this. And so as we continue to think about how does the hybrid work strategy shape and evolve, here is a framework of fundamental human needs that you can look through each of these lenses and ask yourself, is my hybrid work model addressing these needs? And if there's a need missing, right, kind of how do we continue to collaborate and think about what's possible to meet the needs along these 6 dimensions. I'm going to check to see if there are any questions coming in. Thank you for the chat feature, and I see that I can move on. And so when we think about these human needs, there's a sweet spot to all of this, right? It's like there is the levers that we can push and pull on that will make kind of that transformation, that momentum, that real change stick, right? Kind of in our organizations. And one of them is that we enable continuous learning, right? And we're going to hear from Heather and others about what's available today to be able to lead with insight. Again, use the data that you have available to you to be able to anticipate the skills of the future, right? As we're moving more and more into a technology-enabled environment, there are skills that need to be grown and evolved along with that journey. And so we have an opportunity to look at learning as a continuum, right? Not as a single event, but really make it, learning as a part of our culture, so that when new opportunities to take advantage of restructuring work, or new opportunity to leverage a technology, so that learning isn't, there's a culture of just having an open mind and digesting the what's possible, that grows in the workforce, and we're not being hit by an event of having to take new technology. This is, and I think you all have seen it, and Michael will likely talk about it, as you have leveraged the Microsoft LinkedIn Learning, right, to bring those continuous learning opportunities into the landscape. The next sweet spot is about listening to what people need at the front line. And there, again, with citizen needs, changing with all of the different kinds of services that have emerged as part of pandemic services, there's an opportunity here to leverage technology to be looking at, to be anticipating, predicting, and responding to that external facing need. We can use technology to create that two-way visibility into what will help my workforce meet the needs effectively, efficiently, right? What are the new opportunities to test and to implement as a long-term strategy. The ability to incorporate technology into the work of what we do, into the workflow, gives us an opportunity to take care of, maybe some core questions or some data gathering, processes more seamlessly, more effectively, more efficiently, and free our workforce's time up to tackle the harder problems. So listening to what they need, anticipating, using data to be able to open up the lens is really important. Next, we're talking about technology to enable the flexible work arrangements. So there's a strategy that can be developed, right, to use all of these technologies, not only to think about what can be automated, where can we improve workflow, how can we look at what our employees need to be able to enable that effective, efficient service delivery. But there's also an opportunity here, and through the first levers and through the remaining levers of championing the workforce well-being and equity and set and share people metrics, is to really think about the people strategy, right? As you have seen the role and the services that our Texas citizens need, now what would you tell yourself are the new workforce strategies that you would put in place to make sure that the workforce is evolving along with the needs, right? What are the learning strategies? What are the culture strategies? What is the inclusion and diversity strategy to make sure that in this hybrid workplace, in this virtual environment, that we've got a way to look at our operations from the lens of our employees, right? In a virtual setting, I think you're already seeing this. Not everyone participates in the same way when we're on a Teams call, or when we're collaborating, through a capability like Mural or Sticky Swipe or something else, right? And so having a way, a framework to look at how inclusive are we being with the way that we design hybrid work. What are the needs of our diverse population, so that we make sure that we structure work in a way that is meeting those needs in this hybrid work model. And then what is our strategy for equity, right? How does the workforce feel about the opportunities that are ahead of them to continue to grow in their service as a public service professional, right? We want to make sure that, again, the workforce is I call it care and feeding, so that they then can have ample and more cycles of thinking and energy to serve the needs of the citizen. And that's what championing the workforce well-being and equality is, and setting and sharing the people metrics, right? People want to know what the state's objectives are in terms of of how they're going to grow and nurture and support the state's workforce. And so that is, again, a framework, right, that we can look through to as you make considerations about evolving and continuing this hybrid work strategy, right? It starts, I think often we start with what do we need to deliver, right, to the citizens, and rightfully so, right? You are the pillars of support, for our citizens. But taking the opportunity to think about now, what does the workforce strategy look like to take care of the people within our organizations and agencies is really important. And we have opportunities to create partnerships with that strategic intent, right? That is what consulting is all about. And we have, partnerships with technology and data analytics and and process automation and document, automation that we're going to hear about, technology enablement to make this a reality. And so it is with that intent of partnership and collaboration that I'll leave you with today, and looking forward to hearing to the next part of the conversation. But it is about, how do we take care of the workforce that is serving the citizens of the state of Texas. And once more, a word of gratitude to all of you who are doing that. And I look forward to the opportunity to be helpful. And if I or my colleagues can in any way, certainly we'll provide you with a way to get in touch with us. Michael, back to you.
Thank you so much, Yesenia. So what we're going to do is this time in the morning, sometimes need a little bit of a break. So we're just going to pause, and I think we'll probably pause for about 5 minutes. So feel free to, we're going to keep the meeting running and everything, but feel free to take a break, grab a cup of coffee, whatever you need to do, and then we will start back up. Why don't we call it, we'll call it about 9:37 Central Standard Time. So, I'll be here if anybody has any questions or needs any help. And we'll resume the content in just a few minutes.
And if you don't feel like taking a break, chat is open. You're welcome to network with each other.
Absolutely. It's great looking down the list. I see so many names of people that I know and enjoyed being in the physical company of over the last years, and have not seen in a year and a half. So it's great to see your names at least.
Lots of familiar names. We've got 123 people online. Nice turnout.
Chris Cutler, I may be calling your agency out in just a little bit, in a good way. Yeah, but let me be clear about that. And hey, Chet, good to see your name as well.
So Michael, I see your fake background. Where are you really?
I am really, as many of us are, here I'll
But I hear no wind, so I don't think you're back patio.
I know that is my usual hangout spot, but it is so humid outside today after all of that rain. No, I'm in my family's media room, which has been served as my office for the last year or so. And
wasn't there like a toy or a car or something? Why am I thinking of that room?
You might be thinking of the
Back to the Future car.
Yes, exactly.
That's
Michael?
Not stalkerish, is it?
Yes, Yesenia.
We have a question about being able to see the contact slide, and I'm just want to say a note to the audience that we will be sending out the presentation that will include contact information, so that everyone has access.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, Danielle, that's right. The flux capacitor.
Michael, are you going to make the slides available on the Teams community site? Is that how you're going to distribute?
Well, the Texas Teams community site is a YouTube channel where we have we will have the recording there. What I would my plan to do was to get the slides from the other presenters and then make them into a PDF and then just send them out to everybody that was registered. I am working with our marketing team on setting up a Sway page for the state of Texas where we can actually have other kinds of content hosted. And so if you're not familiar with Sway, it's one of the applications that comes with your Office 365 subscription.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, and actually, I do have some additional content in terms of white papers that I'm going to be referencing today. And yeah, that's right, Mark. Thank you. And so I do have a share that I will also send out that will have the different white papers, and I could put the PDF of the presentations in that share as well. It's a OneDrive share.
Okay.
So we will definitely get the information to you.
I don't know that everybody knows the significance of the car. And I was asking you, am I sounding stalkerish, the fact that I know the toys you have in your office?
Not at all. We have a Texas Teams community meeting that we've been meeting for a year and a half every month. And I use the car as an analogy when we're talking about modernizing work practices. And it has just been amazing how many agencies have now fully deployed on Teams. And so of the largest agencies, all of them are now either fully adopted on Teams or have started using Teams and are in the middle of a rollout schedule. And so we've really enjoyed a lot of success with that. And I was just talking about that Teams is like the Back to the Future car in that it's not just a meeting platform, but it does so much more, and it really can help to modernize your work practices for your agency. So that's the significance of the Back to the Future car, and the theme for our Texas Teams community, as Mark Leavenworth called out, is roads. Where we're going, we don't need roads. Try to have a little bit of fun on that, and I will put a link up for a community interest list, and you can sign up for that community. We're going to be focusing quite a bit on hybrid work as part of our sessions, and so if this topic is of interest to you, then we will be really talking about different solutions that we're seeing and different approaches to hybrid work on that Texas Teams community call, and different ways that you can leverage the software you have to enable that. And there's some really creative things that some of our customers are already doing, all of y'all. And so we'll be highlighting in a session that we call Stories from the Field, where we bring in an agency and really talk about what they're doing.
Michael has been responsible for an inordinate amount of free training to the agency. So Michael and Microsoft, we thank you. Even at his previous company, I always knew that I could call Michael up if I needed a speaker or I needed a quick consultation, and we would just get help, which is nice. We're not getting a sales pitch. We're not getting an upsell. We're getting help. So we really appreciate that, Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Joy. And the community, the great thing about that, as for those of you who know me, you know I approach most situations in life with a great deal of enthusiasm. And so my current role at Microsoft is it's called a customer success manager. And what that translates to for y'all is that I don't have a sales metric. I'm not selling anything. My only goal is to help you adopt the technology you already own, or help you evaluate additional technologies that you might procure. But don't confuse my enthusiasm for selling, but just more like excitement about what's possible.
And I think that's a really smart approach for Microsoft to take. And I have to say, especially maybe it started with security, but 5, maybe even 10 years, Microsoft has been incredible about supporting us and giving lots of free training. I don't know if Justin Rohn is on today, but on the technical side, he's been invaluable. And there's so many other people. But Justin and Michael have been around for quite a while.
Hey, watch it. All right, well, let me go ahead and cue my slides up, because we're just about to get going again, and we're a little over the time that I said we would get started again.
Okay, I'll mute.
And I've set little timers on my watch for all of the important milestones in our agenda. So, all right, the next section that we're going to go into is I'm going to talk about really what we're enabling the future of work, talk about some of the research that we've done. I really appreciated Yesenia sharing some of the research that Accenture has done. I'm going to share some of the research that we've done, and then really tie that into how that research shows up in the ways that we can use the technology that you own from Microsoft, and specifically around the modern work practices. And so let's go ahead and jump right into that, because we're seeing that there are regions that are really still in full-on battle with the pandemic, and with the D variant coming, we're seeing things closing back down in certain regions of the United States. I was listening to NPR this morning, and some of the major corporations are now requiring masks again, not just for their employees, but also for their customers. And we've been really keeping an eye on what's been occurring, and then also been closely studying how the work is changing as it relates to our customers and how we're serving them, and also how we're serving our employees. And so we really follow three things very closely. Research that we are doing and our partners like Accenture and Adobe are doing across the field, then the daily conversations that we get to have with you, our customers, and what you're telling us and the feedback you're giving us really kind of feeds into that. And then we also have usage patterns across Microsoft 365, both for our customers as well as Microsoft employees who work in Teams and other Office applications and our other clouds throughout the day. And just like you, we are learning as we go. So we know that no one person or organization has all of the answers, but when we look at the numbers, we're starting to see some clear ideas about what this new era of work is going to require. And we did a study called the Work Trend Index, which I will be sharing on the share that I'll send out and the post-meeting follow-ups. And the Work Trend Index was across more than 30,000 people in 31 countries. And what we found is that 73% of workers said they want flexible remote work options. So coming out of this pandemic, they have enjoyed the flexibility and they want to continue that. But at the same time, 67% of all employees tell us they want more in-person collaboration with their teams post-pandemic. And we've also learned that about 80% of managers say they expect more flexible work from home policies post-pandemic. And so what we're having is employees are saying they want more flexible work options, but at the same time, they want more in-person collaboration. And we call that the hybrid paradox. And it is a challenge for all of us as we look at how to accomplish both of these things. And so some other interesting statistics is that weekly meeting time has more than doubled for Teams users since February of 2020. We have insight into that because of the analytics we have. And then we've also seen an increase of 40.6 billion emails delivered this February as compared to February of 2020. So what that really means is just a tremendous amount of meetings and information coming at our employees. And we're also seeing that 46% of our workforce is planning to move because they can now work remotely. That may not apply as much in the public sector, but we're seeing that remote job postings on LinkedIn have increased over 5x since the pandemic started. So in talking to agency leaders about the hiring practices and some of the new ways of hiring, it's there's an opportunity to potentially hire remotely from anywhere in the world, or at least across the United States. But then the flip side of that is that your employees, your best employees, are being recruited from all over the United States because it is now okay to work remotely. And so the kind of the bad news is that everything becomes more complex, not less complex in hybrid work. And we are really seeing the need to be able to allow people to connect from anywhere. And the old saying, connect from anywhere, anytime, and on any device. And this is both in person and remote. And so it's going to really require a fundamental change for many of our businesses to adapt, not just from a technology standpoint, but also from a facility standpoint. And we're really seeing that in order to compete in this new hybrid world, leaders need to really embrace extreme flexibility in where, when, and how people work. And so we started really looking at this for Microsoft. And to do that, we recognized that we needed a new operating model. And this is not just around IT, but really fundamentally rewiring our organization and then helping our customers rewire their organizations. And this is HR, IT, communication, constituent program management, and every function will need to come together to really reimagine how to empower employees. And as Yesenia said, how do we find that sweet spot for helping our employees be successful? How do we engage our customers? How do we optimize operations? And then how do we transform the products that we offer to our constituents and then the ways we work internally? And so this new operating model that Microsoft has created is really comprised of 3 different areas. And I'm going to dig a little bit into each of these. And those are people, places, and processes. And so by looking at this approach that Microsoft is taking, I'm hoping that we can share some insight with you and then some learnings with you so that it can help your organizations. So in the first area, let's look at the people side. And so the pandemic has really reinforced what we already knew, and that is that work is so much more than just getting things done. It's also about empowering people to thrive in a more flexible work environment. And that's really requiring that we empower our managers and that we really focus on culture and how to reimagine the employee experience because it has changed so much from what we had just a year and a half ago. And so we've been really embracing flexibility as a principle to allow, we've had about 160,000 employees around the world and giving them greater choice in when, where, and how they work. And this flexible approach has given our employees the option to work from home up to 50% of the time. It can be more with manager approval, and then also grants flexibility in the individual's work schedule and work location. We created a hybrid flexibility guide, and that is for our employees at Microsoft. And we recently open sourced this so that any organization can use it in your shift. And we're going to be sharing that information as well. And in that guide, we focus on 3 dimensions of hybrid work. And so all employees have a work site, a location, and work hours. And a hybrid workplace assumes a mix of work styles across all 3 dimensions as our employees as well as inside the organization. And so an individual change may involve all 3 dimensions or any one dimension. And so we've been advising our managers and leaders to follow the steps for each scenario as needed. And again, we'll lay out this scenario, these 3 different scenarios in this grid, and really it showcases the way we make those decisions. And then again, it could serve as a framework for the way that y'all might approach those decisions. And every organization is unique, but we think it might help along the path. And so when one of the things that we found is that it really comes down to the manager level in creating the culture that we want our employees to experience. And so we've been really empowering our managers to lead the shift, and we're working with our managers to equip them with more decision-making authority and tools and skills to lead in this transition. And we've been doing quite a bit of our first line and second line manager training to assist in that. And so they really have the authority to approve, as I said earlier, when individuals can work beyond that 50% from home. And then they also have the authority to authorize new home office equipment purchases for people on their teams. One of the things that I've experienced working with my customers is that the kind of most necessary pieces of equipment are like a good headset and a good microphone, a good camera if someone is working remotely. And so really allowing having a kind of an approved list of those devices to use. And then we're also encouraging managers to have conversations, with their teams to develop team-specific or organization-wide norms, including things like no meeting Fridays. And so we're really seeing that at the team level, sometimes a team, depending on what they do and the roles that they have and how they work inside the organization, might pick specific times that they come in or specific days that they, again, agree that they're not going to have meetings. And so having a plan and empowering managers to lead, we find is critical. And so this creating of this culture and having more flexibility has been something we've been seeing a lot of success with. So all of you own Microsoft Teams, and so the meeting features that we and having these different kinds of meetings and making them more engaging, immersive is what we're really focusing on with Microsoft's Teams to create a more inclusive hybrid experience. And one thing that we learned early in the pandemic is that having that single collaboration tool where people can meet, they can chat, they can collaborate, we can automate business processes has been mission critical in really helping our people to keep connected and be able to keep work moving versus having a huge variety of different tools that they have to go into. And I know we all have applications that are very specific to particular functions of our organization, but then having this one area where you can kind of come together as we focus on working together is where we've been seeing a lot of need for innovation. And so whether that's talking about our developer productivity to shift scheduling for our frontline workers, we're seeing Teams as the organizing layer for all of the ways that people work, they learn, and they collaborate. As Yesenia said earlier, this continuous learning and the integration of continuous learning has been something that we've seen that is a critical part of this kind of new world of work. And so with features like persistent chat, the meeting recordings, and transcripts built into the experience, that's really enabling both synchronous work, but also asynchronous collaboration and communication, which is we're seeing more of a need for with this flexible work environment. And so, after a year of back-to-back Zoom calls or WebEx calls or Teams meetings, I think we're all feeling a little bit of meeting fatigue, or maybe a lot of meeting fatigue. And sometimes the best meeting is the meeting that you don't actually have to attend, the one that you can skip because you have the notes and you have the information, you have the transcript. And so we're really focusing on the need for increasing asynchronous work so that it can enable more of that downtime and more of that deep work and deep thinking time. And it's not just about having a few minutes during the day to get things done. It's really about rewiring the way that we think about meetings. And I'm also going to share some meeting insights that we have in the materials that we'll share afterward. But we're seeing a big need is this digital exhaustion. And the research that we've seen really shows that in order to be effective, we need to reduce the workloads and really create an environment where breaks are encouraged. And this new study that we published last month looked at the impact of back-to-back video calls on our brains and actually looking at the stress levels that occurs. And not surprisingly, it's not good. And this is really a compounding effect. But what we found is that if we can even get 5 and 10-minute breaks between meetings, then we can really break up this compounding effect that is literally causing us to have lower and lower cognitive capacity throughout the day. And so you may not have discovered it yet, but there is actually a feature in Outlook where when you schedule a 30-minute meeting, it makes it a 25-minute meeting. And if you schedule an hour-long meeting, it makes it a 50-minute meeting. And so just by instituting organizational changes like that, we can actually create a culture where having breaks is okay and taking downtime is okay and is actually encouraged. And it's small things like this that can really have a big impact on well-being. And Yesenia had mentioned as one of their 6 areas is focusing on employee well-being. So in 2020, we really saw that we needed to focus more on the fact that people everywhere were struggling with work-life balance, with burnout, with reduced well-being, and organizations were really struggling with what we call reduced or diminished social capital, meaning that teams just didn't feel like teams anymore, and people were getting fatigued with connecting with each other. And so we saw a need to really digitally reimagine the employee experience. And in this new world of work, the digital experience, the digital employee experience really is the employee experience. So many of my colleagues, we haven't seen each other in a year and a half, haven't seen customers in a year and a half. And so this way that we're interacting is really the way that we're partnering with each other and we're working together. And so last year, we made an announcement about a new type of platform called Viva. It's an employee experience platform, or EXP. And the EXP, the goal behind that is to bring together information like the ERP brought together manufacturing, supply chain, and financial systems in the 80s, and the CRM systems brought together marketing, sales, and customer service in the 90s. And so this new employee experience platform is called Viva, and it's built right on top of Teams. And many of the modules and parts of this are included with your Office 365 subscription, but it's just a new way that we are bringing information right into the flow of people's work. And then taken together, Teams and Viva deliver a platform that can really focus on empowering your employees to do their best work by connecting them with the information that you have inside your organization, the people and culture, and then providing guidance to balance out work and well-being. And so the first 4 modules that we are launching are called Connections, Insights, Learning, and Topics. And the Connections is going to be available for our GCC, or our government cloud customers, coming up very soon. Learning and Topics are going through our certification process, FedRAMP certification. And so we're expecting them in the second half, probably toward the end of this calendar year. Insights, if you are in a government community cloud or a government Office 365 tenant, then this is going to be a while for these insights. Now, a lot of the insights that are shared here, the basis of these can already be achieved, and that's where I was going to call out Chris Cutler and Teacher Retirement System. A couple of years ago, they did a great job creating some Power BI dashboards that enabled them to really see how their employees were working, how they were leveraging Teams, the meetings they were using, the number of chats they were doing, and really looking for areas that they were seeing that groups of employees or different departments were not yet collaborating in a modern way. They did all of that pre-COVID, and so when COVID hit, they already had some great insight and already had some really strong adoption of these new modern work practices. And based on some of the early conversations I had, it didn't have as significant an impact going home. Not that it wasn't hard, but they were already a little bit more prepared for it because they were used to working in this sort of asynchronous way and leveraging some of the latest technology. And the interesting thing about Viva is that this is not just a Microsoft platform, but is really the opportunity here is in the extensibility of this platform. And so we have content providers like Coursera, EDX, LinkedIn Learning, as Yesenia mentioned, Pluralsight, and Skillsoft. So a lot of learning providers will be available through the learning module. And then for digital workflows, we have Microsoft's Power Automate, but we're also integrating with ServiceNow. And I know many of you leverage ServiceNow. And then as we focus on well-being, we're integrating Glint and Headspace, which are really focused on employee well-being and taking breaks and being more intentional and more focused. And that will be incorporated right into the platform. And we're even integrating what were really traditional competitors like Salesforce, Workday, and Zoom into the platform as well. So we'll be sharing more information about Viva as it comes available and as more features are there. And Accenture is one of our worldwide partners that are helping us implement Viva and the different platforms and modules and do the consulting and advisory services around the capabilities that are in that platform. So the next section really want to talk about is around the places. So the shift to hybrid has also been requiring really a transformation of our physical spaces. And in talking to some of our agency leadership, we're finding that many of them are canceling leases on buildings or changing the locations of the way they work, or as they're building new buildings, they're building them out differently to have more huddle spaces and more meeting rooms and less assigned desks. And so really seeing a shift in the actual physical spaces. And so we're seeing as the key in this is really flexibility in every space to try to bridge the gap between the physical and the digital. And so the focus on the design is really around the person who's not in the room. as well as the people that are on site. And this really begins with the protecting the safety of our employees. And so another area that we've been focusing on is the return to workplace. And so as you're contemplating how to enable your people to return to your on-site workplace safely, we have created a variety of options that are, some are included with your Office 365 subscription, like bookings and shifts can be used for scheduling your employees or scheduling workspaces. And then we're also seeing a need for a more comprehensive solution. So we built on top of our Power Platform a solution called Return to Work. And so this is an application that is fully built out and has things like employee self-attestations, booking a work or meeting space, receiving a day pass. You can show vaccine credentials or recent COVID tests, depending on your policies. And what we can do is we can come in and really help you evaluate, is it better to roll your own using some of these components that are available in Office 365? Is there a third-party solution that you're interested in? Is this the best solution for you? So if you need help looking through and evaluating these, then we're certainly here to help you with that decision process. And so as we bring people back to the office, as I said, we need to really focus on the people who are not in the room. We're seeing a large opportunity in a negative sense for discrimination to occur for those who are remote to the meeting experience, who are not in the meeting room. And depending on the technology that we enable, it could really be a disadvantage for those who are working remotely. And unfortunately, what we see is the parts of our community who have traditionally potentially been discriminated against, remote work tends to be even more discriminatory towards those who have already been discriminated against in the past. And so as we're trying to create a more inclusive culture, and we really need to think about how we create spaces that make it very inclusive for the remote attendees as well as the on-premise attendees. And so we've been doing quite a bit of work around the Teams meeting spaces, and I want to play you a short video that that kind of showcases whether you have a small room, a medium-sized room, or a large room, some of the ways that we can incorporate the technology into that space. And this doesn't have to be Microsoft technologies. This can be your Cisco WebEx based rooms or your Zoom rooms, because we can integrate into that. And so the video is developed by our marketing team, so it is not a technical video. It's it's got cool music and everything else. So let me go ahead and play that video now, and let me know if you're hearing the audio, please. Are y'all hearing the audio? Okay, great. I see the thumbs up. So I did see some questions in the chat about integration of Zoom, and then there was a question around Viva. We'll answer those. Why don't we bring those up during the panel part of the discussion? So as you can see, depending on the type of room you have, there are really cost-effective solutions for any size room, and on our larger, big board style rooms, those can be a little bit more expensive proposition, but there are options for any and all of those room sizes. And again, the focus is on really enabling that remote employee experience so that they feel like they're part of the meeting room. And so the future meetings that we'll have are really more of an immersive experience, both with the video, the audio that they were showing. And then we're also focusing in the future, as you see in some of these little images here, in an experience where it feels much more like you're in the meeting with the people and you're sitting face to face with remote participants. And so these are all of these experiences are designed around just giving the most equitable experience for our remote attendees. So I'm a little bit over time. The last part of our area that we want to talk about is just around the processes. And so what I'm going to be sharing with you as we as a wrap up to this is we're going to be giving you a hybrid guide. It's a guide for business leaders. And this focuses across a variety of roles inside your organization and research that we've seen and some guidance on ways that you might be able to leverage some of these technologies with regard to these particular areas and aspects. We're also, as I talked about, we have that hybrid workplace flexibility guide, and I'll be sharing that out, and that is something that you can leverage. It's open source, so you can take any and all of it and use it, change it, whatever makes the best sense for your organization. And then there's a site where we brought together a lot of this content. It's called Microsoft Work Lab. And the Work Lab is really focused on strategies for onboarding in a hybrid world, preparing for turnover, work trend index that I spoke about multiple times. And so all of this content will be available to you. And then also, we would love to come in and meet with you and really help you look at ways that you can leverage all of this information and these technologies to really transform your business processes. And so a company that we've been working with around transforming business processes during COVID, really the leader in this is Adobe and the work that we've been doing together. And so what I'd like to do now is hand it over to Heather and have her discuss how Adobe has been helping their customers with all these hybrid work needs. So let me stop presenting.
That's awesome, Michael. Thank you so much. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm really excited based on all these ideas that we've been chatting about thus far. So I'm excited about what the future looks like. So bear with me one moment and I will get some visuals going here for all of us. And then again, be thinking about opportunities and questions that we can answer during the chat as well today. So give me just one moment. It'll take a second just to load. Well, as we get started again, could not be more excited to be here with everybody today talking about such an important topic around hybrid work and where the future of work is going. It's certainly instrumental for all of us in terms of what we do every day. And at Adobe, we feel the exact same way. So let me just kind of pause and just confirm. Can everybody see the visual?
Yes.
All right, sounds good. Well, let's go ahead and dive in and get started. Good. Thanks for the feedback. I appreciate that. Well, I'm certainly, again, like I said, excited to be here. As we set some context for the rest of our conversation today, let me share a little bit about who we are and who Adobe is and our dedication to public sector, including Texas government and governments globally. Quite simply, our mission is all about changing the world through digital experiences. These have been at the forefront and the core of our mission since we started. And through our solutions, we're really focused on transforming how people work, learn, and play. And at our essence, the goal at Adobe is to give everyone in the public sector and beyond, everything you need to design and deliver exceptional digital experiences for both employees and citizens. And in summary, I think it's really just about providing digital experiences that put people first. When we put people first, we know the rest follows. So let's talk a little bit about our commitment. We're certainly committed to working with the government and awesome partners like Microsoft and Accenture to help you with digital modernization and thinking through what's the art of the possible. Through our secure document experience and creative cloud solutions, we're focused on delivering, again, agility that improves that citizen experience and then increases employee productivity and satisfaction, which is really paramount in today's world. We're focused in on delivering equitable experience. We talked a little bit about that earlier, right? Equitable experience design that takes into account the mission of government and all of the agency, needs, requirements, and that's a really important factor. And I would say there's probably 3 key drivers to digital transformation and that reinvention within government, especially in our new hybrid environment that we're navigating as we speak. It's an increased focus on the constituent, or better known as like that customer experience. It's about innovation powered by creativity. Like, let's continue to reinvent the employee experience and take all the successes that we've had over the last year or so and continue those. And then finally, let's also foster the new ways of working that enable our agencies to rapidly respond to customer experiences and drive that efficiency overall. And when we bring it all together, right, ultimately the outcomes are we help deliver those seamless digital experiences. We help transform and optimize those business processes and leverage your current existing investments that you have. And then, of course, maintain that business continuity and agility. So I don't know, Michael, similar like what you said during the break, I'm also just really enthusiastic about the art of the possible and what we can achieve when we work together. So I'm happy to share what we've been doing at Adobe to provide the best experience that we can, both for our employees and our customers as well. So let's dive into that a little bit. All right. I certainly don't need to tell the government here today how big of a challenge it's been and the significant pressure, right, that we face every day to transform how we provide those services to the public. Now more than ever, there's that spotlight on the need to shift from paper and manual processes to all digital experiences to help ensure an uninterrupted delivery of those essential government services. And then also allow the workforce and citizens to engage from any location, right? From a computer, from a tablet, et cetera, any device as well. So when we think about what's top of mind for public sector, it's really about, again, how do we continue to work in the new way of a hybrid world? And I think the first is to really realize that digitization really isn't a new challenge for the government. It's something that the pandemic has really brought forward to light, and it's created this urgency to justify the prioritization. And so as we think about sort of kind of the old way of all just in-person or paper-based processes, now again, it's how do we foster in-person and virtual or contactless experiences whenever possible? And then again, how do we help revamp internal processes to eliminate all that paper manual handling, et cetera? So, and of course, it's government, right? I mean, at the forefront, we want to make sure that we're continuing to meet strict compliance requirements and protect the security and the privacy of all the information that's being shared in the digital world and even in person. So I think that there's kind of like, these are the 4 key areas that we ground on within Adobe that help us stay focused, help us be aware of and help prepare for. And it's, again, being mindful of just those disruptive conditions like with the global pandemic, changes in leadership. Again, understanding that citizens expect similar experiences that they're experiencing out in the industry or in the commercial sector. We want to continue to strive for those internal efficiencies while we try to manage those budget constraints that we often have, and then keep security at the forefront with compliance. So I would say in general, government is encouraged to stay focused on IT modernization, focus on exploring those new technologies. And again, for those of you today who are in technology leadership, we certainly know that IT is a critical part of the infrastructure required to make this all happen and supporting the agencies and the departments. So here's just, again, like a quick view of some of the things to be mindful of. So digital experiences are no longer optional. We know that. And again, I just really, like, Michael and Yesenia said, wanted to just give kudos to everyone who has pivoted recently It's been an exhausting period, I think, for everyone, no doubt. But it's really through your hard work and your dedication that digital adoption during the pandemic, again, here's, I mean, just one statistics, right? It vaulted, we like to say in 5 years within 8 weeks. Tremendous amount of change in a short time. And again, it's through your efforts that we continue to transform that experience, both with and for the government. So thank you and kudos to everybody for that, that you've been through and that you're continuing to support every day. One of the things we found, right, is government's rapidly transition to this remote work environment. It was sort of that big question. And is productivity going to take a hit, right? What is it going to look like? And guess what? The answer was, that question was answered, I think, loud and clear, because productivity stayed strong. And in many cases, we know it increased. So this success has left us with some clear guidance that we can help government take the next step to transitioning in that hybrid work environment for the future, right? Taking a look at policies to continue to foster that and build a really dynamic, engaging workforce. The 3 enablers that I think about that can help with this transition and maintain that in a productive environment is, again, accepting that the hybrid workforce in government is here for the foreseeable future. Let's leverage that ability to scale this environment, and then understand and keep security at the forefront of everything that we do. So as we navigate government today, again, a couple of things to highlight in terms of some of the insights that we're seeing. And again, I think it's always about numbers and kind of really bringing this to life. There's been a dramatic shift in the ecosystem with the work location, which is the first quadrant that you can see here. We know that the majority of team members either want or plan to shift to more remote or a hybrid environment. And now we need to get ready for that. And the number one focus continues to be around collaboration, which is good. I'm glad to see that. That's really around the focus around communications, our working style, and then bringing tools and technologies to enable that effective collaboration. There's, of course, a focus on operational resilience in the middle. And that's the theme is that, again, people like ourselves, we want digital alternatives. We want ways that allow us to work more easily and seamlessly. And then as it relates to shifting priorities, again, the majority of folks, 66% of people have indicated that adopting digital document processes and tools are important. And there's also a desire for cloud solutions as well. So as we kind of take a look at the insights, what it all means, one kind of last piece of research based on some collective discussions and work with Forbes and IDC, we talked about the research that, again, I think you may find interesting, and I won't go through all of these, but when asked how important will workflow solutions, and everything around it be in, succeeding in a new distributed hybrid work structure, 86% of folks, no doubt, said that it's going to be very important in the new hybrid world as we bring, the people, process, and technology, and that's all the key principles behind that. So if we think about it, it's these workflows that really have the power to deliver those improved experiences for all of us. And I think, again, the key takeaway here is that technologies enable the government, to be flexible, offering employees access to the resources that you need to do your roles, again, from anywhere. So now, what does this all mean? Document workflows are the foundation for government in many ways, right? Paper is infused throughout so many of the processes, and helping modernize these workflows really are at the forefront of our focus, right? We want to help reduce or remove paper entirely. And we're no stranger to working in a complex digital world. I know many of you have worked with Adobe solutions before, but again, based on our experience, right, this is based on more than 250 billion PDFs that were opened in our solutions last year, and the more than 8 billion signatures, both electronic and digital, that have been processed through our solutions. So that kind of lays the groundwork in terms of, how these processes work together. And again, it could be an agreement requiring collaboration. A workflow could be editing or signing a document. And it could also just include, getting information out of something that can be used for data analysis. So as we continue to focus on the hybrid environment and the need for manual business processes to be digitized, again, how can we reimagine the document experience? How can we work together to help agencies innovate for the future for remote and in-person workforce and customer interactions? And I think similar to the insights that Michael and Yesenia had shared, the focus really should be on empower you and your teams to quickly deliver those exceptional digital experiences, right? Because we aren't all in the same location anymore. And let's continue to transform, the speed of everyday business processes so you can deliver those government services for Texas or your agency without delays. And again, the answer I think to this fundamentally is, we can do this by leveraging technologies and the solutions that enable people and government to easily modernize digital environments and then create these awesome human experiences that we all like. So with that in mind, as we think about modernizing the solution, a lot of folks will ask, well, how can you help, support in this complex environment? And I think I'll, just focus a little bit on the four main areas that we're focused on at Adobe. That's, transforming those manual processes and focusing on a seamless document approval process to help save time, right? We want to help connect existing government systems and applications and focus on solutions that maximize your current technology investments, right? To help with productivity and with cost savings. We want to ensure security and compliance is baked in throughout the whole process to reduce risk. And then from a collaboration perspective, I think it's important to consider, how do you incorporate and integrate digital document workflows within the business and work with the systems that you use today, whether it be Microsoft or ServiceNow, Salesforce, or a variety of solutions, so you can get that faster time to value, all while being flexible throughout the whole process, which is, of course, really important because we know that oftentimes priorities change on a regular basis. So with that in mind, as I think about some of the government policies around this, I think it's important to look at some of the aspects and government guidance that you can use to help create an effective hybrid environment. And this environment, again, is one focused on accessibility, on sustainability, automation, security, equitability, right? So that we're providing services for everybody. And a couple just to highlight in terms of kind of, again, helping you is one, digital document workflows supported by electronic signatures. Those have been legally binding since, 2000, at least in the United States, with the e-Sign Act that many of you are familiar with. So it helps make those approvals legal, for virtually any use. The other one that's really foundational is the 21st Century Integrated Digital Experience Act, better known as the IDEA Act. And that's, again, focused on the inclusion of website standards and services, forms, signatures, all to support government operations and those citizen-facing activities. And then lastly, as we think about some of the recent approved funding sources, like the Texas Technology Improvement and Modernization Fund, again, it's all focused on cybersecurity and helping legacy system upgrades for the state. So, the priority is, again, helping keep constituent information safe and available at point of need. So again, these are all designed to help empower you and your teams as you're thinking about what's next. So a little bit about, again, the focus here has been kind of transforming across some of the people themes that Yesenia had mentioned as we think about some of the technology as well. I think this visual helps to highlight some of the tools that governments have been using in this hybrid environment. And again, it's something we've adopted ourselves based on our focus, on paper to digital transformation. We're focused on solutions like Acrobat and PDFs, digital and electronic signatures, and integrations to the systems that you use every day. And it's all about also as well around how do you provide services to managing documents in that process flow. So one of the things that we're always very keen to do and that we're excited to do is provide the APIs that helps put you in control of how you use the technology with your teams. So again, I think the focus here is that the priority really should be around helping people and government communicate, collaborate, and get work done through tools, and focusing the relationship on data and how to get that data, and really driving what's the most meaningful data to support the mission at hand. So this hybrid environment, as I think about it, it's really requiring all of us to be able to, look at documents and figure out are the ways that we can, scan, edit, share them in a meaningful way across the ecosystem. From a technology perspective, Michael, you alluded to it before, but the partnership the three of us have had over the decades really brings, I think, a lot of robustness to, kind of some of the power of the Adobe solutions directly being integrated with the productivity and the collaboration solutions of Microsoft, and then working with, folks like Accenture to provide that overall management and consulting leadership throughout the process. So I think this visual, shows a little bit of how some of those integrations work. And together we're focused on enabling that modern digital experience that is going to be unmatched in the ecosystem, right? Helping you transform while delivering those great experience for constituents. And again, we're proud that, some of our solutions like Adobe Sign is Microsoft's preferred electronic signature solution. It's got all the pre-built integrations that run directly inside Microsoft, so they're easy to use. And ultimately, what does this mean for you, right? It's this type of collaboration that allows you to maximize your existing investments and realize greater value in your hybrid environment. So just a couple more visuals as we talk about this. If you try to take a step back and see where document workflows, whether it be approvals or processes, signatures, right, where they're being used, we're really seeing it in every aspect of government. And I'm sure you're seeing the same thing, from citizen facing and business sort of facing unique government functions outlined in red on the left, and then working your way kind of to the core teams on the right under the black headers that you see there. These are the back office, operational functions like HR, finance, procurement, legal and compliance, IT. And hopefully I've called out many of your teams that you support today. And if not, I'm sure that these support your teams as well. And again, it's not really about just approving these workflows or signing a document, but it's all about the upstream and the downstream activities that go along with these documents that can really help bring transformation to the process. And again, I'm really focused on people. For those that know me and have worked with me before in the past, all of this really supports a more collaborative and cohesive culture across the organization. So let's bring this to life a little bit. I think it's really important to kind of look at examples and kind of see where we've done this before. This is an example, and for those of you today that support in the public safety and the justice mission, whether or not you're police, courts, or corrections, one of the areas is around transforming courts within the justice system. So we focused on solutions like creating a hybrid court experience for judges and staff and citizens, really everyone across the whole ecosystem. And certainly we couldn't be more pleased to highlight how a key court in Texas leveraged, again, solutions like Teams and Adobe Sign to support that virtual and hybrid courtroom experience during the pandemic. They were thoughtful about the technologies and the processes that they needed to run the courts, and they put it into action very quickly. They were up and running within 5 days, which I think is just a tremendous accomplishment by all teams. And we're continuing to focus on these sort of integrated digital document experiences combined with meeting room solutions and other solutions to transform how we're supporting courts. And the benefits really are to increase efficiency, help share information and reduce costs on file storage and management, and save time and travel, all those things that we can do for, for simple courtroom and even complex courtroom experiences. And again, really excited about that collaboration. And again, I had to pick a Texas example to kind of bring it all to life in terms of that. So with that in mind, I think there are some meaningful outcomes that highlight the value of driving digital document workflows. And I'll share a little bit about some of what the studies are showing. And then the benefits are certainly far reaching. Processing speeds up to 20 times faster, millions in savings, return on investment from the technology. But at the end of the day, it's really about helping keep government moving. It's helping deliver those hybrid experiences to the workforce and to citizens in a meaningful way, getting that rapid time to value by integrating all these solutions together. And again, the best part is that a lot of these solutions can be done very easily, very quickly. And then, of course, let's keep in mind budgets and some of the constraints we're working under. We need to continue to lower costs and reduce the need to print, scan, track paper, et cetera. That's really important so that we can redirect those resources towards serving the mission, which is really what it's all about. So I have just kind of in closing, as I think about the future ahead, and again, how can we design better experiences together? I hope that some of the insights shared today spark some reflection and a call to action within your agency or department about how we can work together to serve the mission. We've got to be intentional in this new world of hybrid work. We've got to focus on putting people first. And we need to find new creative ways to leverage collaboration tools and other technologies. So here's kind of just a top 3 list to keep in mind that I am hoping is helpful in your journey. The first is to set your strategy and establish your North Star, right? Know where you're going and where you're heading and why you want to get there. Think about ways to improve the current experience, not only for yourself, for your team, and then also for the citizens that you serve. And it can be done quite simply, right? Take a quick inventory of where you've got paper in the equation. What are you still signing and printing that you can help automate so that you don't have to have an employee come to the office if necessary, right? To do and to kind of support those processes. And embrace the solutions that allow, again, you and your teammates and others to be able to work anywhere. Keep that flexibility and that scalability in mind when you're designing. And again, I always think about it's always about prioritizing, focus, and many times we have to reprioritize and readjust regularly. Don't be afraid to do that. We need to work in an agile environment because our conditions and the guidance that's being put in front of us every day is changing all the time. So if you put your focus on people, process, and technology first, everything will really, transpire from that. So I always like to say, remember that failure leads to innovation. So many times we can give examples of where failure has led to innovation. So stay that big picture, and together we can work and prioritize these efforts. And as I think about it, everyone can and should be a digital champion and a sponsor, right? So use your voice, raise up your ideas. If you're a participant in a process or if you're a leader in the process, help shape those innovative design experiences. And I mentioned it before, but I'll mention it again, put people first, right? When we can focus on how people can benefit from technology, we're going to make the difference every single time. So make sure that things are fit for purpose. And I know sometimes, like you may think all of this can be a little bit daunting, and it is, but it's also very easy as well. So get started. Just get started. Take one step at a time. I always like to say use the crawl, walk, run approach and look to collect and incorporate feedback along the way. So I hope you consider these ideas as you design better experiences for your teams and citizens. Again, just a big thank you to everybody for, engaging in, about to engage in the conversation. I think at Adobe and along with Microsoft and the sponsors for today and Accenture, we're committed to helping the government drive meaningful impact by addressing the challenges ahead. So we certainly welcome the opportunity to meet with you and brainstorm ways that we can help drive those meaningful outcomes, both with and for government. So I don't know. And I guess until then, keep innovating, stay positive, and be proud for all that you're leading. We're certainly grateful for you and your service. So Michael, with that said, I think we should pivot to the panel discussion. I know a lot of great questions are coming in, so I would love to dive in.
Yeah, thanks, Heather. That was great. Really appreciate the overview. As Heather said, Adobe has a great team here in Texas that I've been fortunate enough to work with. And so when you have a question about that, I saw Daryl mention that they've been using the Adobe Sign integration in M365 Approvals app. So that's awesome. We'd be happy to sit down and meet with you and talk about how these technologies work together. So let me go ahead and share another screen. I'm also going to post in the chat the attendee survey. So if you don't mind filling out the survey, we really would appreciate your honest feedback. It does ask for your name and email address. If you don't mind providing that, that would be great. If you are not comfortable with that, you can just type anonymous in there. And so we won't get our feelings hurt about that. So let me share again, these slides. Okay. Okay, excellent. As I'm bringing these up, one thing that I would like to highlight in on, and Joy, I really appreciate you typing in the comment earlier about the kind of the discrimination and really trying to not create a discriminatory environment towards our remote attendees. And I think that would be an excellent area for us to kind of kick off in talking about is how do we create environments that enable all of our employees to feel represented and to be incorporated. And would love to get, Joy, if you have any more thoughts on that. You typed a really, I think, an eloquent description of what you are seeing. Anything you want to say additionally about that? Otherwise, I can see what Yesenia and Heather have to say.
I'm really interested to see what they have to say. And I think your point was valid. It's just, I've been teleworking for over 20 years, and I've often been the orphan, the only one not in the room. And I absolutely understand that mindset. And that's still going to happen. But it's not always going to be the people in the room that are the orphans or the ones that are disadvantaged. If we had an agency who decided to open a conference room today and we had 3 people sitting at a table watching this on a screen, they would be the orphans. You know, the leaders, the speakers are online. We're very engaged. So it's no longer necessarily the remote people. It could be either way. So that was my point.
Yeah, Yesenia, I see you nodding. You have some comments on that?
Yes, well, and I think you're right, Joy. Not that I think you are right. Your observation, and what we're seeing is that there is, I think everyone is on a continuum of learning and being mindful of now what dynamics are in place for for our meetings, right? And some of the ways that I'm seeing clients now rethinking how they enable leadership to be able to recognize the various needs of that meeting outcome is asking themselves really strategic questions about how to organize work, right? It's asking questions like, for this medium I am planning, right? One, is it going to be, via technology, right? Virtually enabled. Will there be people who are in person collaborating on it? What is the outcome, right? If it's about a decision or is it about information? If it's about, just passing on information, are there other channels that that information can be passed along on so that so that we're not only taking into account time that people spend in meetings, but also just driving outcomes. If there's going to be collaboration, is there work that we can send or thinking that we can collect ahead of time so that people can then all consume that and come into the collaborative session, equally equipped, right? So I think the element of inclusion and diversity that now comes into hybrid work is really taking a look at what do we need to achieve during the meeting, right? What are the decisions that are going to be made, and do we have the people that are needed in that decision, right? Is there any pre-work or post-work that will help build buy-in, or just help people understand what's going to happen so that they're not left with FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. If I can't attend that meeting, is there going to be a way that I can catch up or be informed of what's happened? So all of this is just about considering now, the dynamics of flexibility through the lens of how can we create the most inclusive experience for employees without losing pace necessarily, right? Because there's an element of we've got to stay on pace with with needs, right? Of our operations. And so I think those are now some of the tools and muscles that that more of our leadership levels, right, can start to exercise to create those really effective, really dynamic hybrid conditions.
Yeah,
Yesenia, too. I was just
Go
going
ahead,
to
Heather.
say, I couldn't agree more with kind of the comments that you had and a couple of other just kind of observations that I had started to talk about. It's a very real thing. And I think I mentioned even before, like, it's not new. We've been serving sort of these environments for a long time, and we need to continue to get better and iterate. So that, the government's commitment to the focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility in the workforce is paramount. But then again, it's what do we do with that, right? With that support and that sponsorship. And I kind of think about it in two lenses. One, we need to stay focused on designing experiences for the workforce that are going to meet the needs across a variety, of folks and needs. And so I think about when we're thinking about solutions or when we're bringing technology or processes in, right? Start small, bring representation from across the workforce to the design so that you can get that feedback and iterate and incorporate. I think that's really paramount. And then the other tactical suggestion that I have is that I think about is it's really about a lot of the, some of the core and the fundamental is training and enablement of our teams. Again, we're making sure that we know how to use the tools most effectively, that we feel comfortable using them, and then provide facilitation techniques as well so that folks can all actively participate and engage. And I think it's fair to say we all still struggle with this every day. And I think, again, we need to stay focused on that and give, again, just all of us, are, not intentional sometimes when, we may miss an audience or we may forget about something or we may not think about all the different things, but we need to continue to educate ourselves and work together to provide, again, valuable tools on how we can do that. And again, I always say speak up, right? Make sure that your voice is heard. If something's not meeting your needs, find ways to do that. So I appreciate the question. I think it's a really good one, and it's a good reminder for all of us.
Yeah, and I think from a technology standpoint that the technology has evolved to allow more inclusive experiences. I want to share real quick a whiteboard that I put together. Let me know when y'all are seeing the documents on the whiteboard. Are y'all seeing
coming
that?
through.
Okay, great. So these are some of the documents that that we're going to be sharing with you afterward. And really specifically, as we were talking through this, and I really loved what Yesenia and Heather were saying about creating these inclusive experiences. And so one of the documents we're going to share is collaborating without compromise in hybrid meetings. And there are a lot of ways that our leaders really and our managers, as we go about scheduling meetings and we look at ways to leverage these increased features in the technology, is leveraging the capabilities before the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting. So I'm not going to drain this list at all, but I just want to make y'all aware that there's a really good guide on how to go about doing this to create that more inclusive experience. And instead of doing it the way we used to do it, which is we send an email about the meeting, and then we send a meeting request, and then we send another email with the agenda, and then we send an email with the attachments for the meeting, and then there are emails leading up to the meeting that talk about what's going to be talked about in the meeting. Well, instead of doing that, do all of that in the context of the meeting itself in Teams and the chat and the files area so that everything is in one location and all of that pre-work can be done in one place. But then during the meeting, the transcripts can be created, the recordings can be created, and all of those assets will be there. And then after the meeting, the continuance of the meeting, the action items, the follow-ups, all of that can still be inside of the context of that meeting. And so we're really creating a more integrated and inclusive experience, but it's sometimes hard to keep up with all these features as they come out. So thanks for letting me share about that. Stop sharing that screen, go back. There was, let's see, what other questions do we have any other questions in the chat?
You had one earlier asking for an example about what was that product? And I don't know if you answered it just organically after it was asked. What was?
For Viva?
Yeah.
Yeah, an example.
Asking for an agency example of how that had been successful.
Yeah, so Viva really is just rolling out, and so some of the technologies that Viva is based on is around Teams and SharePoint, and then a whole lot of new technologies that are being pulled together. So that's a long way to say I don't have any examples right now of governmental agencies that are using it because we're really just bringing it out. We do have examples in the commercial sector of customers who have already started to leverage things like the workplace analytics, and Accenture is one of our go-to-market partners with workplace analytics and really taking a look at the ways people are working. But we will have additional content, and I'll cover that in our Texas Teams community. We'll go into a lot more details on Viva as it comes out. And as I mentioned, a lot of those capabilities and the modules for Viva will be included with Office 365, and then some of them would be an additional charge, like the workplace analytics.
And then there was actually a question for me, I think some others were interested, is Outlook and/or Teams going to be adding features that when people accept a meeting request, they can indicate if they want to attend in person or remotely?
That's a great question. And I don't know of a feature that is being incorporated into Outlook or Teams to be able to indicate that at this time. What I would say is that if you are leveraging the Teams meeting that is in your Teams calendar and your Outlook calendar as the place where you're putting agenda and you're putting information, then you could actually just have an area right there where you're and maybe if you have a conference room that only holds 8 people safely, then you could put a little table there that says, there's room for 8 people to attend in person. First come, first served. Maybe the leader gets their name put on the list automatically. But there are some manual ways to do that. But then when we look at that return to work solution that I mentioned earlier, it actually has the ability to schedule conference rooms, and then the integration of the bookings application, you can set up this room allows 8 people in it and only allows 8 people to be booked in that room for a meeting. So there are ways we can do that. It's just not tightly integrated yet into Teams and Outlook. It's a good question.
I think those were the historical questions. Someone commented, when folks accept, there should be 2 accept categories: accept in person, accept remotely. I think they're talking about future features. Yeah.
Yeah, David, I really like that that suggestion. I think that's a very good. That would be a good opportunity of a place that you could put that. You do need to be able to limit, again, because as we look at return to work and we look at people coming back into the workplace, and depending on what happens with the D variant and God forbid another, an E variant or something, I think we're going to it's going to be the sort of starts and stops of people coming back and then maybe not going back. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Michael? An opportunity, to come back to that people-focused, right, employee experience is as you are developing, right, kind of the norm of meeting etiquette, right, it's like which you have an opportunity to start to memorialize those, right, and to put that out in broader context so that becomes part of the new organizational DNA. Because there's going to be, right, like every change process, there's the people that get it quick and fast, and those that are going to come along at a different pace. And so this speaks to being able to think about and document and get input to that organizational culture, right? The new norms and behaviors that that this new way of working is establishing. And it's also an opportunity for a mindset shift of flexibility, right? While in pre-pandemic we were, I think all of us were a little tied to the how we do things as a prescription, right? Now the new mindset is, right, as guidance, because we're going to be continually evolving. And as you think about, some of your organizations that are, just very complex, right now you have an opportunity to chart a path for that organizational change, to support it with, with communication, to support it with leadership skills, right, to continue that, that evolution, and to support it, with just the real knowledge, right, about how to use capability usage, right, of all of this, kind of awesome and slick and fun technology. But it really does come back to, how do you start to move the entire organization along in these new etiquettes, so that, again, we have a lens for, do we have people, the right people, are, do they feel like they're included in this evolution?
Yeah, I completely agree. And as I've seen organizations adopt things like Teams instead of using email as the communication-centric platform, really using Teams when possible. What I'll see people do, and it can be very, it can be gentle. If someone sends me an email with a PowerPoint attached, and I'll say, hey, I went ahead and copied that over to the team location for us so we can all leverage that. Or someone sends me questions in an email, I'll just bring it over to Teams and I'll respond to the question in Teams. And if it's one-on-one, I can do that as a one-on-one chat or as a group. If others would benefit from that conversation and that question and answer, then I'll put it there. And I think the same thing can be done, as you said, with meeting norms and some of these before, during, and after capabilities is really where we rely on our managers to lean in a little bit, or our champions, and learn these things and then help create the new norm by doing it differently.
Yeah, Michael, and you're setting a couple thoughts too around that. I always like to think about trying to make our environments less complex to the extent we can, because they're always getting more complex. So as you think about, how do you take advantage and how do you simplify some of the technologies? And for many of you who didn't join early, Michael was giving a great tutorial on how to use some best practices of Teams, et cetera, in advance of the call. But there's so many tools and things that are out there that, again, I know I'm sure many of you feel this way, but I can say that I often feel overwhelmed by just the amount of tools, et cetera. And it's one of those that once you learn the tips and the tricks and you know how to use it, everything sort of flows seamlessly from there, right? Once you get comfortable. So I think it's that embrace that it's, it's changing quite a bit, and allow yourself, give yourself the permission to take the time to learn about these things. And, for those of you that become well-versed in a particular area, whether it be a process or a technology or just your area, always pay it forward, right? Offer the opportunity to, to work together, to showcase what you know, to help make it easier, because we're all visual, many times learners, right? So when we see it, we understand it better, et cetera. And again, you'd be surprised, just a minute or two of kind of knowledge transfer or support can just pay dividends in the back end for things. So again, just embrace the change and be willing to help and collaborate with others. When you see something, share it if you think it's going to help your teams.
Michael, I skipped an earlier question, put on your diplomatic hat, when you mentioned collaborations and affiliations in Zoom. Like, someone asked about that.
Oh, that's right. Janelle asked about that. Honest answer, Janelle, I don't know. I saw that mentioned that we're going to be incorporating into Viva, Salesforce, Zoom, Workday. And so the way that Viva was built is it has some core functionality right out of the box. But then the goal is really making that a platform that other platforms really can integrate into, much like the work that Adobe has done and we've done together to completely seamlessly integrate Sign and the Adobe Creative Cloud and Document Cloud platforms into Office 365. And so Viva will, if you're using Zoom as your communications platform, will allow you to leverage Zoom for that, or as part of your training platform, or if you're using Salesforce for CRM or work processes, then it can integrate. There'll be a lot more to come on that. I'm sorry I don't have more information, but I will. We'll start covering some of that. Because it's so tightly integrated with Teams in the Texas Teams community. In fact, I'll put a link in the chat for anyone who wants to sign up for the Texas Teams community and be invited to those monthly meetings. They are the second Thursday of each month from 3 o'clock until 4:30. and I'll post the link to the community interest list in the chat.
So while you're doing that, Ann Hallam shared a comment that they're looking into an OWL Labs for a camera, microphone, speaker for simplifying hybrid meetings. So going back to appropriate equipment. Let's see, this is a good one for all of you. Do you have any tips currently handy that you can share with the group that will be helpful for hybrid collaboration meeting? I love what you've shared so far. And let me expand that. You're all global companies, you're well versed in remote, but even so, how are your own companies changing? So tips, what you're seeing in your own workforce.
I'll go first.
Yeah, kick us
right.
off.
So we, when we started to pivot to the fully remote just at the beginning of the pandemic, at the beginning, companies like ours are already, kind of very enabled with the technology, right? We had, we used Teams, right? But we really did expand the topics, right? That we all explored to create, again, that, very real recognition that the shift of work was an impact both to what we do for our clients, but also for our people. And so one shift that we made was, using all of this, enabling technology to be able to connect within the organization in small groups, right? Against, personal interest as well as, learning skills, for how to be better consultants. But we really brought, again, that people-centric humanity into the landscape to make sure that everyone felt like if they needed help, regardless of where they were, what problem they were tackling, right? And again, we've talked about wellness, right? We've talked about, mental health, psychological health. I think, again, in the literature, you can all see that. But, using technology to assist with those kinds of connections is something that we have done. And another area, and I think there might have been some other questions about, how HR can help, right? Kind of for those, for those that may be, just wanting, desiring, greatly, kind of 100% in person, is that we also have an opportunity and take the opportunity to connect with mentors, coaches that, or to hear from others about how they're managing, how they think about their work. And so this may be an opportunity for the state to think about who are those leaders, and even if they're emerging leaders, right, that get this, right, that have been, really able to look at their business unit and say, right, this work can stay remote, and these kinds of topics need to be in person, right? Is put that, let that person be a source of learning for others, right? And whether it's in a group setting, because we can, all join a call, or whether it's, an approach to one-on-one coaching that can help other leaders grow their skills in, thinking about restructuring work, in thinking about managing and supervising employees. Like, this is an opportunity, again, for that organizational culture, that leadership development capability to amplify, right, kind of in our workforce.
So Heather, you want to talk about tips, how your own workforce has changed, and now kind of expanding to how HR can be brought in to help and how new hires can be addressed?
Yeah, absolutely. I know I'm mindful of time as well, so I'll kind of keep it brief. But again, at Adobe, very similar to Accenture and Microsoft, right? It's at the forefront of helping people through this journey, right? Offering programs through HR and through, the people processes to help work in this new environment, taking stock of what people are thinking and feeling. And I think the most important part, what I've really valued and appreciated, I'm somebody who actually started during the pandemic, right? But it's this constant outpouring of outreach and connection that really helps bring us all together. I saw a comment about that around kind of, starting during the pandemic. But again, it's really focused in on providing diversity of work options, right? Allow people to work remotely, allow people to work in person. And again, there's going to be some complexity to get that all underway in the initial parts, which we're all seeing right now. We're all going through that. But again, stay patient, stay focused, because I think ultimately when we get through some of these challenges immediately over the next couple of months, we're really going to see just a tremendous amount of collaboration, productivity, and every day I think we prove ourselves to ourselves that we can do, in some ways, what we thought was the impossible before. So again, just stay positive about that. And again, for anyone who would like to chat about it, I'm more than happy to talk about how, big organizations are supporting this journey. If you want to get some ideas, happy to do so.
So the 2 hours have blazed by, and there's so much still to talk about. Really want to thank both Yesenia and Heather for joining us on this call. It was so much fun to prepare for this and to co-present with y'all. Thank you again to the DIR and the SAC committee for working with us and sponsoring this meeting. Thanks to all of you for attending. It was a lot of fun. We're going to have much more to share. So please put your interest there on the Texas Teams community call, and maybe we can get a little a cameo visit from Yesenia or Heather on that at some point in the future. And please fill out, as Joy said, the evaluation. It's just a little bit further up in the chat, and I will send out the link to that in the follow-up email. There's also the share that I just put that has the documents that are available, and I'll send a link to that also in the follow-up email. So with that, we will sign off, and everybody have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday.
Thank you.
Have a great week, everyone. Thanks again. Take care.
Bye, everybody.